So, got myself a coffee. So, we probably don't need the macro lens right now, but what I did want to show you quickly is bottom brackets. It's a tool that I've touched on this a few times, and people get very passionate about bottom brackets, and we won't go into the types, etc. But what I have here is the bottom brackets from my friends from Enrique's Aspero, which you'll have seen in another video. I'll try and link up here. It's a very good one. I was surprised, but it had a mistake, and we'll get into this. And here is the new 366 Evo from Wheels Manufacturing. I originally bought one of these for the Strada, and needed it in a hurry for the Racemax, so that's now in there. The one in the so the one that's in the Strada, you'll see in another video that's coming up. I'm going to try and sort of make it a little bit better, but essentially what I've been doing with that came with a horrible plastic one. Now I believe, and again the internet has lots of opinions on this, the biggest problem with BB30 and Press Fit bottom brackets is the fact that a lot of them come with nasty plastic cups. Now the one that's in my Strada is a nasty plastic cup one, and the one that is, I'm going to leave one like that and one like that, so in theory, you know, both camera angles will get one. But these are lovely. These basically screw in beautifully, and I'll show you in a minute what I do. So I always put grease here to make sure that that is water resistant and rattle resistant. You can tighten this up pretty well. If I can, I'll try and put these shims here to protect the frame a bit, but honestly I think it's overkill. And what is better for me is that I hate having wavy washers in a bottom bracket assembly. I think they're awful. You know, they clearly compress under load, and they're just not what I want to be having in my bottom bracket setup. But the plastic ones that are in there, I did want to do a video for ages about basically taking them out, cleaning them, and showing you how you can extend the life of your bottom bracket, but you know, the Press Fit bottom bracket for a long time if it's a plastic one. But you'll still get some creak from the plasticness. I mean, essentially plastic is not the precision or flex-free product which you would want from something that is undergoing pretty much the biggest forces that you'll see on your bicycle. So anyway, rather than rattling on, now this is interesting. I bought the angular contact bearing ones. Now there's a lot of debate over whether you have angular contact bearings or normal ones, but essentially what it means is that in here, that table's perfectly level obviously, in there, I'll try and link to a diagram, but if not, I mean essentially when with the typical bearing, you've literally got a straight through. With the angular contact bearings, literally it's slightly offset, and so the balls are held at an angle rather than straight across. I often thought that was worse for cleaning, because obviously one of the things that I do, and I'll try and show you on, I think either the well, both the Trek Stash and the old Strada have a plastic set of cups with obviously steel bearing assemblies in them. Now what I've done, and I'll show you this in a second, is I prise this open and push this grease through. I generally use this if I can. It is ceramic grease, and it's a lot lighter. And then on the outside I use this Teflon grease, which is a lot thicker, and it creates almost like a waterproof barrier. And when I've done things like crossing Wales, I mean, I've gone to town on both the wheels and these bearings, and literally put a coating outside and a coating inside and let it set for a week or two. And literally, I mean, we went through very deep puddles and rivers.
I think that's a no thank you, no? Is anyone going to take it? I've got video. Who's next?
And when we got back, the bearings were bone dry. Now you can, obviously, if you want to, put this barrier on the outside and just leave a liberal greasing inside. You can even just use light oil, if you like. You know, when people do these spin tests and it goes zzz, I mean, that's fantastic if you're a pro and someone is, you know, cleaning it out and putting fresh oil in every day. But for us mere mortals, you can try and rely on this, keeping the water out, but generally there's the best and most reliable way to keep water out of your parts is to have something in those parts that stops water getting in. And so in the chain, this is going to be another video, it's having wax inside the rollers so the water can't get in the first place. And this grease, as I say, it sets to like a solid film, so you really wouldn't want it inside because, you know, it makes, you know, whilst you're not going to get that zzz of spinning, you do want it to spin a little bit, and even if you pack it with this grease, it will still spin probably once or twice. It just won't go 3 or 4 times. And obviously if you leave it, you know, ceramic bearings or even just good EZO bearings with just a little light oil, I mean, it will spin quite a lot more. So without further ado, let's see how we get on with this video. This is pretty manky. I don't really want to get into this because it's very dirty. And the problem, now I normally wouldn't have got, I got Enrique to get this version, which is the BB right for the Aspero. And I normally wouldn't have asked him to do that because I suspected that it would be a nasty plastic one. Now in here we found a lovely metal top bottom bracket, so I will be cleaning that up and giving it back to Enrique as a replacement. The only problem is that I don't think they'd really, well, one of 2 things had happened. He took it to a shop who said they didn't have the tools to undo it, but the problem is that it hadn't been tightened properly, or they hadn't, you know, greased this, or because if you don't grease it, and it can rattle with the grease, it's sort of, yeah, I mean, they can come undone. It's not the best, and long story short, it was spinning in the carbon sleeve, which is not good at all. We really don't want that happening. Got to have a bit more coffee. So I'm going to show you what I do. Obviously you grease that. You can grease that with whatever grease you like, but in here we have a typical blade. It's just the easiest way to get this off. Obviously be careful of your fingers, but if you push this in here, it's a lot easier when you're trying to clearly demonstrate not catching your fingers. But I've bent this slightly, which is not great, but it will go back just fine. Now this has the wheels manufacturings, you can see you can just bend that back. The wheels manufacturings come with fairly decent grease, but it is not packed as well as I would pack that. And what I'm going to do is show you how I pack this with this grease. There's really no problem putting 2 greases in here, I don't think. There's a lot lighter grease. I sniff it because you can see whether it's petroleum. This sounds really weird now, doesn't it? But you can see whether it's petroleum grease like the Shimano grease or it's a Teflon ceramic grease. Most of this is going to push that out, which is good. There'll be a barrier at the back. But what I don't want happening is that this is not really covering all of the grease, greasable area. And I do have a gun. I actually have 2 guns for this, but between all the bike parts and the Land Rover parts in my parts bin, I literally, cannot find things. I'm going to have to find some time to minimise the amount of projects. Now I've put way too much in here, but we're going to put this on the other side. It's not a big problem. But you basically need enough to make sure that when you put this cap back on, it's going to push some grease back and out to the other side. And if you have there's 2 things you can do now. With this superior bottom bracket, now you notice it just pushes back in. With these superior bottom bracket designs rather than the plastic ones, you can actually replace the bearings. But I've found that if you do this method, they're so good. And even with the plastic ones, if you do this method, it's so good at keeping the water out. All you need to do is regularly open this up and do what I'm doing. And sometimes you may need to push. Got to be careful with blades. Sometimes you may need to push this through a couple of times to get all the crap out. all of the rubbish out, and I probably will do with that one. But, or you can, if you want to, even properly clean them out before you put the grease back. But honestly, you just don't need to keep replacing. It's amazing how I've got a coffee here, and everybody recycles the Nespresso capsules, and everyone's talking about Nespresso capsules, and obviously you use a lot of them. But there's so many things in the bicycle industry we just throw away or leave at the side of the road, like chains, etc. And I'm going to show you in another video how using wax you can make your chains last a lot. I mean a lot longer. I really don't replace chains regularly anymore since using wax. And we'll get onto that in another video, which hopefully will be a lot easier to do in here. So again, push this back in. You can see, I might try and show you with the macro lens. It's not going to be easy to light even that, but I have pushed oil out of the back. Now there is a hard stop here, so yeah, it's probably not pushed oil out of the back. But if you do that, and then any excess, obviously we're going to have to oil this, so don't oil this first because you will have excess here. And when you finally get it open, some hours later, you can put all of this excess on here. What you don't want is this excess attracting dirt on the outside. And I may put a little bit more of this on. But yeah, in short, that will now go much better into the machine. As you can see, it doesn't rattle. This will, and make sure you clean this because it's going to press into the frame, and you don't really want grease here. But if it's, well, it depends actually. If you've got a metal sleeve, you've got metal on metal, I don't know. Leave in the comments if you think. I generally leave this cleaner. I've seen people even put carbon paste. In the old days you had to epoxy these things in, which I never really liked, and thankfully doesn't seem to be done anymore. But yeah, I'll generally clean this because you don't want it rotating. They don't generally stick very badly. This is very well painted. It's anodized all the way around. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm going to get this into the Strada because the Strada needs some love and attention. It has been left, the poor thing. But we're going to get on to that, and we're going to get some more riding. The kilometres have to go up, and there's a reason why the kilometres are going up. They're going to go up quite a bit. And always put your blades away. You do not want to leave blades hanging around. He says. I thought there were 3 in there, and there's only 2. But yeah, there's a lot of weight here from the COVID. Needs to go. It is going to go, and I think you'll find it quite exciting how I'm going to do that. It's a thing that a lot of people have been doing in these times, and I've got a video that I did back in 2020 on how I was going to do that. But yeah, I work in technology, and literally the amount of work that a lot of us have had from back end of 2020 and the first parts of 2021 has been obscene. But yeah, let's get back to the videos, and I will see you in the next one.
Who's next?